Okay, so welcome to this super special episode of the Wealth Rebel Show. As we kick off what is, I believe, is going to be one of the most amazing years that we've had in lifetimes, if not the most amazing. We're moving into 2025, and I think, George, you'll agree, the tides are definitely changing and turning. It's literally written in the stars. Literally, it's going to not be a coincidence this year that as I'm bringing this to you, we're recording this on the solstice, the winter solstice. I don't think coincidences exist. 21st of December, 8:30 Miami time, 1:30 London time. We're bringing this conversation with George H. Lewis to you to kick off a new year and a big mass awakening, especially in the UK. So, firstly, welcome, George, to the show.
Thank you, Emma. It's very nice to be here today with you.
I just think it's really interesting, George, how the universe works because I couldn't have dreamed up or dreamt up a better, more perfect guest to come onto the Wealth Rebel show because I feel like for me, meeting you are like the ultimate rebel in terms of your story. And I think that's why I resonate and connect with everything so far. So anyone that's watching me knows that as a wealth rebel, I stand for sovereignty. And that word just kind of rings massive alarm bells. Everything that I've heard you talk about, we're talking about sovereignty, but for a better planet, for people, for purpose, profit comes after purpose and the planet. And, you know, I think anyone that's been following me for a while will know that I really care about unshackling societal norms. I've been doing this kind of freedom fighting. We talked about freedom fighting when we spoke on Monday, and reclaiming sovereignty really intuitively, not really knowing why for some time. And this year I had a really big, profound spiritual awakening. And I think in the UK, we've definitely been kind of kept asleep. And this is something I know you really want to dive into. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is helping people to see the human being that they came here to be, unleashing that blueprint, showing people how to trade, that trading is not just about money, it's about all their assets, the time, the energy, the exchange, and really elevating frequency. Because I've been banging on for some time, George, and I think seen this when you've been kind of looking into the things that I care about. I believe wealth is someone's frequency, that the measure of their wealth is actually how they vibrate and therefore how they become magnetic and how they vibrate and vibe around their frequency. So, and that just ties so magically into what you do as an astrologer. You know, it kind of ties into understanding who you are at that deep level so you can see what your blueprint is, what your soul blueprint is, so you can really step into purpose. So I think a really great way to start, I was thinking about this because there's so many depths to you and to the things that I've heard, would be to really understand a little bit about your story and what led you to leaving the UK, because I think that's really important in the terms of what the UK need to hear right now from you.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one to know how to answer that simply because I mean astrologically I have my sun and moon in the ninth house, so straight off the bat I meant to go abroad. The ninth house is the house of internationalism, galacticism, higher learning. It's the other. It's known in the ancient astrology as the house of God. And where you have your wherever you have your moon is kind of where you're at home. And my moon is abroad. So from that perspective, it's important for British people to understand, this isn't an attack. This is this is my moon is in the ninth house. Now, beyond that, the limitation of and the restriction in my educational system and social system for me was was there right from the beginning. And it's no one's fault. I mean, look, Britain is a Saturn-ruled country. What does that mean? It's governed by Capricorn. When it was founded, when the Act of Union happened in 1801 between England and Wales, well, England and Wales together, and then Scotland, it really was set up in this Capricornian, Saturnian system of control. You see it through the City of London, through the royal family, through all the protocols of very strong deference to the pyramidic structure of control. And with me, again, my Uranus is opposite my moon. My Uranus is opposite my sun. You talk about the rebel. I tend to think of it is very rebellious, but what it is, it wants to uphold a different system. I don't believe in, it's not even, no one believes in tyranny, but people have been totally brainwashed in the United Kingdom and in most European countries, not all, to accept the authority from above. And whatever the authority of Oxford, Cambridge, and in my case, the Harvard and Yale's, it's all the same thing. There's been this huge push for people to accept whatever comes out of those people's mouth is an oracle. And for me, in this sense, I'm incredibly American, and I'm talking philosophically. I believe in the potential of we the people. And that doesn't really exist in the United Kingdom. People might give lip service to it in a certain situation, but the deference to the king, the deference to the doctor, the deference to the politician, now that's breaking down. Since 2008, we've had Pluto in Capricorn. That's destruction of the institutions. But Britain's got a lot of catching up to do. So for me, as a younger person, I was always loving going abroad. I went to the moment I got the chance, I went to study in Italy. I went to Padova University, which is one of the oldest universities in Europe, and then I went to live in the Middle East, and then I moved to America. So I've been out of Britain for 20 years now, as far as living permanently abroad. But I care a lot about Britain. But it's also, I've had a lot of resistance since the timeline change of 2016, 2017. I mean, most people in Britain from my background will literally walk on the other side of the street when they see me because they just can't cope with the fact that I have liked what Mr. Trump has stood for since 2016, 2017. I'm not going to mention names, but many people have said to me many, many years ago, George, why can't you just be a Republican? Why do you have to support Mr. Trump? And I said it's not about Republican Democrat, it's actually about destroying the old system. And that old system is the Unity Party system, that is the actual controlling banking system are the puppeteers of Labour and Conservative, of Democrat and Republican. That is just truth to power. And once we realize that, we have to then, right, say, what are we going to do? We've got to usher in a new system. And this is all coinciding with the ushering in of the age of Aquarius. And now Pluto is in Aquarius. This is a profound moment in our civilization. It's a profound moment for innovation in our history as these Saturnian power structures are swept away. The City of London and the Vatican will not have the power going forward that they've had hitherto.
I think it's wonderful the way that you bring the history into it because that really helps me understand because I am even though I've grown up literally in the financial system with all this knowledge I don't have the same level of understanding that you have. Maybe because I've come from a really different background, Yorkshire, Bradford, kind of different background. And I feel like I've just had a different journey. But I've definitely really felt nomadic. Like, I feel like, I don't feel like I should be in one place, but everyone tries to pin us down into one place, own a home, settle down, get married and a big calling for me this year. It started a few years ago, where I just was like, I'm not meant to be tied down in a contract or in a marriage. And the very fact that I started to speak this way in my life became really unacceptable, like completely unacceptable. Oh, does that mean you want to be, what does being free mean? And at that time, I didn't really understand. And it's really only this year that I've really understood that it's because I don't believe deep down in marriage. In contracts, in kind of staying in one place. And I have this really deep desire to be nomadic. I've traveled so much. And I think when we talked at the start of the week, I wrote the big word travel down. And I think as humans, often we have this desire to be able to move around, but we've been kind of put into one place and put into a structure and constrained and made to feel like we are suffocated. And this control is really overwhelming for a lot of people. How can we, how can we how can we step out of a control system that is so, is it going to be in the stars? Is it going to be the change in energy that, or is it going to naturally be a crumbling, or is it something that we have to take a little bit of sovereignty for? This is
Yeah, I
something.
mean, I think let's talk sovereignty. I mean, there's a total collective amnesia. Uh, in the psych in the collective psyche, there is no memory. Literally, there is no memory of true freedom. No one on this planet. fully understands the power and potentiality of freedom because it isn't in the collective memory at the moment. And that's going to take some time to remember, to rebirth, to reboot, and to regenerate. Great Britain is, it's had a strong monarchy for over 1,000 years. This isn't personal. This is structural, guys. We've got to look at the structure. I'm not so interested in personalities. I mean, I would say there's probably some very good people within the monarchy. You see, it's not about the people. It's about the structure, and Saturn rules structure. And I mean, I think something to share with your listeners would be um, Jupiter and Saturn, every 30 plus years, they come together in a conjunction. And for the last 250 years, they've conjoined in Earth signs. That's quite a big statement. And for the first time in 250 years, in 2020, this time 4 years ago, actually, today, 4 years ago, Saturn and Jupiter conjoined in an air sign. That's definitely one of the indications that we've entered into the age of Aquarius, an air sign, the water bearer, which is an air sign. Pluto now, having moved into Aquarius, really does help us shift out of old concepts of who we are. With the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter for the last 250 years in Earth, it's been pyramidic. It's been, if you like, queen with handbag on top of pyramid, or sausage fingers on pyramid. It's the whole concept of 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 the one person sitting, the figurehead on top, and everyone else the minions beneath. The age of Aquarius, which is air, is very different from Earth. Very, very different. It's the only invisible element, and it's multi-directional. It communicates in unique ways. It's quick. It's masculine, and it's light, and it's technological. So we're going to see a total shift in the economic system. Total shift from control pentacles, coins, if you like, towards a crypto, really a digital currency. And of course, there are two versions of this digital currency. The one which is a central banking digital currency, which is a total premise for the New World Order, which would come in to control us absolutely fundamentally and in totality through a new banking system based on a digital system. That's on the one hand. The other is we the people, a crypto digital currency which is operated through the people. It's totally transparent. It cannot be manipulated, and it can't be governed and controlled by outside sources, meaning you and I can trade, and we actually end up having our own banking system. Is in you have your own banking. You actually have your own bank. I have my own bank, and we're totally outside the old matrix. And so, for me, the age of Aquarius, when we are try and understand it from a high integrated expression, a Christed expression, is one where we really can be sovereign. We can be independent from outside control. And as a result, we can be hugely creative. And once we're creative, we're free. And when we're free, we can love. We can love in a way that human beings don't really still understand, because everything, whether we like it or not, has kind of been conditional in the society that we've lived in. Even when we fall in love, there's still so many dynamics to do with money and power. Maybe that is the reality of the third dimension in which we live, but I think it's coming to an end, and it's going to evolve into a much higher expression. And that's really what Christ consciousness is about. It doesn't really matter whether you believe in a religion or not. And again, I'll finish by saying this. The age of Aquarius, especially with Pluto moving through Aquarius, is a total reflection and a revision on our ontology. It's our belief system. Whether you are the secular materialist living in New York, or whether you are the Christian fundamentalist living in Tennessee, your whole belief system is going to be turned upside down in the next couple of decades. Upside down. And so for you Brits, for us Brits, I mean, I'm dual citizen, but I'm very American. I'll never sound American because that would be insincere, because I only moved here 12 years ago. And my accent is, when you speak English, you don't lose it because it's not like I've learnt another language. But my philosophy is very American because America does believe in freedom. Has it got it right? No. Has it been corrupted? And has there been huge amount of an injection of foreign entities coming in to manipulate the system, of course, through the central banking system. That's another conversation. But freedom is really being led here in America. And this vast mandate towards President Trump and his team, it's not just Trump. It never has been about Trump. It's been about a team amassing who can actually stand up for the people. And of course, it's frightening because we are dealing with vast technologies here. We're dealing with, Mr. Musk and who is he now compared to who he was. There's a much conversation within the movement that I exist in. There's a lot of controversy around it. But this is again where I'm quite American, and I'm not going to sound very British here because I have something which is a very unusual ingredient for most Europeans in 2024. It's called faith. We have a lot of faith here in America. Brits have got to catch up on that. Where is your faith? What do you actually believe in?
I think that's amazing. Like, because I think we're conditioned to have hope, and I think hope is not the way. If you're hoping for something, you're not really leaning into faith. There's a big difference in the words, and this is something that I'm learning. It's so interesting. Everything that you say, I just find fascinating because my word for this year was love, and I did not know why because I was going to literally have this whole kind of awakening that opened me up to what love really meant in every aspect of my life, not just from romantic experiences, but everything is love. You're either in a fear vibration or you're in a love vibration, and the fear vibration is the control. It's everything that you've talked about from the systems that we're in that just aren't supporting freedom. And like you, in my 20s, I literally went to the States. I had an uncle in America. I'm so Yorkshire. Wherever I travel, I cannot get rid of the accent because, like you, it's just who I am. And you
Yeah,
take me
sure.
everywhere, I'm Yorkshire, right? But fundamentally, I was always attracted to the East Coast,
Mm,
to that part of the world
mm.
because I felt really at home, I think, with the freedom, because freedom is a really big part of my astrology, my DNA, if you like, that I came here to be. And I think it's part of everyone's really DNA is to have that, to be able to have that like freedom. And one of the things that I love that when you talked about this on some of the other kind of podcasts and things that I've been listening to as I kind of only uncovered you a couple of weeks ago, right? Is about this trading element and is about understanding that energy is fundamentally free and we're being lied to. And what Tesla kind of invented, I'd love for us to talk a little bit more about some of those things because when we're thinking about wealth, we think so linear in terms of currency wars have been happening for some time. I remember reading a book about currency wars years ago, and the whole economic system did not make sense to me. As you know, I called out the 2008 crisis before it happened, and this for me just comes as a feeling. I feel it's not right. I don't know why. We're relearning through feelings. And these currency wars have been happening. So we're shifting now into something that is genuine free trade, not a total lie of free trade. And it's going to kind of move in a different direction. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
how that's going to work.
So a couple of things. So let's first do a little bit of the history, if we can, a little history lesson, then we can jump into Tesla,
Yeah.
because it's all very connected.
Yeah.
I think one has to understand, and I've had to go, really back to study the real history rather than his story, which becomes history. I mean, I can't remember whether it was Napoleon Bonaparte who says history is a fable agreed upon and written by the victors. I think the thing is, if we go back to, I'm just going to take an arbitrary date here of 1871 after the American Civil War. The American Civil War, everyone was broken on both sides. There was no money. Everyone was broke. And the institutions here in the United States had to turn to Europe for banking, for help. They had to turn, in particular, to the Rothschilds and the central banking system. And the United States was turned into a corporation. The United States was turned into a corporation in 1871. It's really important for people to understand this because from that date, as a result, the United States was impaired and unable to do what it was meant to do. So there was already a distortion in 1871. By 1913, after the sinking of the Titanic, when Astor, who did not believe in a central banking system, was got rid of. The third Federal Reserve, which was by far the strongest, came into existence. And the Federal Reserve has dominated not just American, but global banking system for 100 plus years. With the Trump phenomenon in 2016, 2017, it's no accident that Mr. Trump had Andrew Jackson's portrait front of center in the Oval Office. Who was he? He destroyed the Second Federal Reserve. I mean, just give yourself goosebumps to listen to that. You know, this is where we've got to do a little bit of basic history. And the United States, as a result, has been under this, I'm not even going to call it a European banking system, but a globalist elitist cartel that has governed our realm through usury and taxation. We were never meant to, as Americans, have income tax. And the taxation here in the United States is socialist is kind. And in Europe, it's off the scales. And everyone has been brainwashed into believing that the government should do everything for everyone. There's no creativity in that. Margaret Thatcher was right 40, 50 years ago. But people have been brainwashed to think not. And so you've got to understand this is the history of where we're at now. We're going to see, we have already actually seen, it's just for the public to catch up and realize this, the destruction of the IRS, the Federal Reserve, the banking system. It's not going to be like it was. And Britain will eventually follow suit. Britain's got to play some catch up, and the people of the United Kingdom have to start to stand up and really start to understand what's been going on. And, you know, for many years, since 2016, my British friends have thought I'm an absolute lunatic. And, you know, from a little bit more recently, some of them are beginning to, you know, maybe question a little bit. But still, from my background, they're going to be the last to fall. Because with great sympathy or understanding is because from their perspective, they have the most to lose. So when we jump from that frequency, which is an Earth limited control frequency, Saturnian frequency, we think of someone like Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla was born in the late 1800s and he died in the late 40s under mysterious circumstances. I think he was poisoned, but that's another conversation. It's interesting to think, though, that Nikola Tesla's great friend was John Trump, the uncle of Donald Trump. Kind of interesting. Nikola Tesla created what was called free energy. And of course, he lost out to Edison because that's the story of the 20th century. That's the story of naturopathic medicine being pushed out in favor of allopathic. That's the story of the Rockefellers basically controlling the whole medical and educational system in order to have total control by a criminal banking syndicate. And then it gets galactic, which we're not going to get into today. Where do these entities come from and the control systems? That's another conversation. But Tesla understood this. And his famous quote, of course, is if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's his famous quote. But really, the other one, which I think might be in some ways more interesting for us today, is if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. Now, what does this do? This suggests that Tesla believed that these numbers had significant key to understanding the universe and its secrets. And it's obviously it's related to vibrational and energetic patterns, manifestation techniques. But I also believe the 369 is connected to 0 point energy and time travel. And I think part of what we have to really just be witness to, because I don't know any more than any of you. I'm just asking a lot of questions. And that is, if we can allow ourselves into the archetype of the puer aeternis, the child, and just realize we've been told a whole lot of nonsense and half-truths, that we are now like kids in the giant sweet shop where everything is going to start popping. Like, you know, it's just going to be like the bonbons or whatever the analogy is. It's just going to be full of curiosities coming down the pipeline for us over the next couple of decades. And if we can be in a state of reception, in a state of willingness to actually question our ontology, our belief systems, and to be able to go beyond it, it's going to be incredibly exciting because we are going to have new technologies that are going to come in very fast. They're already here, but they've been suppressed by the FDA and many different three-letter organizations. I mean, all the patents, as they call them here in America, have been suppressed and hidden for the last 100 plus years. Thousands and thousands of patents to do with innovation technologies that help humanity, whether it's special type of Tesla technologies to help gardens or time or travel, hovercraft travel, space age stuff. It's all there, and it's all been part of the secret space program. Yes, for 100 years. We human beings, me included, are about 100 years behind in our understanding of what technologies exist in our realm. When we see a lot of what we think of UFOs, that's hybrids and combinations of humans working with other non-terrestrials and swapping different technologies. It's just been kept out of the purview of humanity. And that's part of the timeline shift of disclosure since 2016, 2017, since the advent of Trump and his team. This is about human beings stepping into the fore and stepping into freedom and stepping into real knowledge. Light is knowledge, ignorance is darkness.
Wow. I mean, the power of numbers for me and the things that you were talking about with the 369, these keys, these number
Yeah.
keys, I've just been feeling and kind of have been drawn to really in my bedroom, literally. And I don't know why. I'm a life path 8, and I feel like I've been given this 8 number to break out of it. Almost to become free, because I also have the letter number 13, which I feel is really powerful in terms of divine feminine energy to bring in that creation to help the masculines to get out there and bring in this innovation that we so desperately need. And I think the more that I lean into the 3 energy, the power of 3 to go into 6 and to go into 9, I have experienced profound bodily experiences when I've meditated and done breath work and utilized frequency in my own experiences. I would never have believed it if it hadn't have happened in my bedroom through a meditation where this meditation
Yeah.
happened to take me up a 9 ladder. And I can't really explain it until you go through these things and experience it for yourself.
No, they're portals. They're definitely portals. They're stargates, and I think that's part of what we're learning is that like you have ley lines and grid lines on our planet. When you activate them through specific frequencies, it's like crystals. Once we actually understand how to activate these frequencies, these subtleties in our reality, we then become way more galactic, and that's when we can go through portals and go and experience things which you know to us up until this point we would consider to be space fiction, or science fiction as they call it. Well, it's not science fiction, it's spiritual faction, it's spiritual reality.
Yeah, it's not fiction. It's really real, because when you experience it, you feel it in your body and you actually see these things. Because I can consciously stop myself from having this experience. And I access it through breath work and frequencies when specific musics are played. Now, very intuitively, since my awakening this year, I have stopped drinking. I was drinking for my whole life because I was conditioned as a Yorkshire person to go down the pub literally from the age of 12. You would just have a drink every day. It's fine. Poison in my body. One day I
Mm.
just woke up, and I believe this is when my soul decided to have a contract to wake me up. And she was like, she's ready now to wake up. She's strong enough to go through what I had to go through this year, which was really painful experience in my body when I was changing from the dense carbon-based body into the body that I am today, which is completely different. If you'd have seen
Yeah.
me, I'm different. And I believe, and this is something that I've written down on my notebook. I believe that the things that you've talked about in terms of frequency, we're being fed through things like the BBC, right?
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
listen to the news anymore. I can't even listen to it. I was getting triggered. I used to drive down, I used to listen to the radio, and I was literally feeling sick in my body, and I'd be shaking and I couldn't understand why. And the frequency was 440, right? Maybe let's understand a little bit about how these frequencies are impacting our body, and then how we can do some of these things to kind of maybe shift into a different frequency naturally as we are trying to wake up and support some of these changes, right? I'd love to know a little bit more about that, because I know you do a lot of sound healing and frequency
I
work,
do.
right?
I mean, there's obviously is the history of the switch from 440 hertz to 432. I'm so sorry, from 432 to 440 hertz in really officially in the middle of the 20th century, around the time of the 1940s. Um, the Royal College of Music and all the different institutions, along with European and American institutions, switched the frequency of middle C of from 432, which is the natural frequency. Again, 432 adds up to 369, you see. When you have music that is divisible by 3, 6, and 9, it's an activation, it's a portal. I can't really explain it in words. But when you have 440, you see that's the Saturn matrix. 4 plus 4 is 8, and it's a negative 8. You see, 8, oh, how would I say this? 8, you see, really is about understanding karma. It's understanding that Saturn is the platform of architectural foundation from which we can grow out of it. It's like a stepping board to go beyond, where unfortunately 440 in the lower interpreted dimensions is stuck in the karmic wheel. And David Icke has spoken about this for many, many decades to do with being stuck in the three-dimensional matrix. And the 440 hertz is a distortion of the true C. And we have to now go back. I mean, I always tune my pianos and instruments all to 432, and it makes such a difference. You see, it's not possible to know the nature of the universe if we approach it through the finite mind. We've got to go deeper. We've got to understand there are many layers to it. That's why for some people, plant medicine can be very effective because you do some journey. I mean, here I am in nature, in the forests of northern Florida with these ancient oak trees. And, I'm here with a shaman and I'm learning a lot more about nature and how the plants can sustain us and guide us in many different ways. The 21st century where we're at today is really a return to nature.
And we're so not in nature. It's crazy. We've
No.
got these cities. And I think that's why I was drawn really strongly to North Devon, right? 10 years ago, 2014, I was like, I need to get out of London. I can't. And I think, intuitively, we are guided to the ley lines. And I really believe about 2 years ago, I started running. And I was doing that in my village in Swimbridge. And I really believe strongly there was a portal that I used to go up this track because I remember having a conversation, and I don't really know why, with my yogi teacher, Natasha, saying, this morning I went for a run and I saw lights, and it was pitch dark because I had my head torch. It was pitch dark, there was lights, there was nobody else there. Are you sure, Emma? Yes, I saw lights, and nobody, everyone thinks you use this word in one of your talks, batshit crazy. And I think I'm going batshit crazy, but I'm like, what's going on? And these portals exist. So firstly, I ended up in Swimbridge, but then I had to come to Saunton, which for me, I don't know what it is about Saunton, but it's powerful. And so many people, so many amazing founders are being attracted here that are
Yeah.
creating game-changing businesses that are futuristic. And I'm hearing it now because when you start to elevate and your vibration goes up, I started doing energy work at Saunton. I started doing breath work. I started going in sauna, started doing cold therapy. I didn't really understand why. I just started doing all of these things very intuitively. So all of these people started to come in that spoke a, spoke a different language to the language that I was used to in the old 3D matrix, right? And it was like mind blowing, quite literally. Because the 3D for me, I think I can never explain the dimensions because for me, it's the frequencies, it's the different
Okay.
vibrations.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me,
That,
when people talk about the 4D, I actually like to think of it actually a bit more in terms of Christ consciousness, because it's the fourth chakra is the heart, the third is the solar plexus, the fifth is the throat. And I think in some ways, if we're going to use these codifications, and some people like to, some people don't. I do and I don't. I don't really attach that much to them. But we are living in a three-dimensional matrix. We can agree on that. And
yeah.
so the 4D is coming into the heart. And it's about sort of love. But I don't think, see, the New Age movement was deliberately trying to push away. the darkness as if it didn't exist. And for us to go through the heart, we do actually still have to observe what the reality of the 3D has been. And the reality has been huge amount of enslavement for everyone, but also very dark stuff going on for certain people, which has been hidden, to do with child trafficking and sex slavery and stuff like that. And I know a lot of the population still, because it is so heinous, don't want to focus on that. And it's not that we should, but we have to acknowledge it. And there's so much evidence that it's existed. And so for us, we have to observe that and then go into the heart. And as we go into the heart, our frequency through the toroidal field of the heart chakra expands up and downwards, and our sort of neurological pathways expand and cleanse. And we enter a different form of homeostasis. This is frequency. And once we do that, we become lighter. We start to see things because our senses become multi-sensorial. It's not just the five senses, it's that sixth and more senses that step in. And that's that etheric body that we begin to witness, and something remarkable transforms and happens. And this is part of, this age of Aquarius that we're moving into. You know, um, for example, if we look at white snow, through purple tinted glasses, then the snow is always going to appear purple. So it's always in accordance with, say, the limitation of the medium through which you see it. You see, so the white snow will always appear purple. So what we have to do is take off our glasses and understand that we've all been conditioned to look. It's like The Matrix, the film. It's a documentary. Knowing the nature of reality is really important. And this is obviously the quest of all the spiritual traditions. And now we have Pluto in Aquarius. We're going to be asked very deeply to really study our belief systems and not to define ourselves by our belief systems. I am not what I believe. George here, talking with Emma now, we may have some belief systems, but if they're very rigid and we define ourselves through them, that's a great limitation. Whereas I feed from you, you feed from me. Constantly, my beliefs are evolving. I mean, if you had met me 10, 20 years ago, I had a very different understanding. I mean, just talking to the British audience that I'm doing today, I was very, very much a monarchist growing up because I didn't understand the whole concept of it. And again, it's not personalities, it's structural. I just didn't know what I've known. And I think going to America has helped me hugely broaden. I mean, I've been to over 95 countries. That's certainly helpful. But living in America has been very, very helpful for me because it's really made me question my own background, my own way of life, my own beliefs. And I think we all need to do that. And we can all do it together with support and with love. And so the fourth dimension is stepping into the heart. And once we've done that, the 5D then gets more into probably Tesla, which is to do with 0 point energy and understanding the stargates. I mean, there's some major stargates around the world. Obviously, Antarctica has probably got the most famous one at the bottom of our planet. And those are access points to different lands, non-terrestrial places.
Wow. I mean, and this is what we're uncovering. I remember someone bought me the fingertips of the gods from Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock, yeah.
Yeah, right. And this is very kind of poignant. I started learning about that a couple of years ago, and then I dropped it. My spirituality just went in a different direction. It went very feeling. It was really overwhelming because when I had my heart chakra activation this year, and it felt like my heart was really hurting because the expansion feels like pain. So for a lot
Yeah.
of people, when they're going through this, it's really, really terrifying. And that's often when I think people can drop back into matrix because
Yes.
we're so afraid of getting our heart broken in all
Yeah.
aspects and in all relationships, whether that's in our career, whether that's in anything that we do. We are so terrified of taking the risk of what that means. And I think, and we've been really conditioned to, and that's why we lock people down in marriages. We don't allow each other to be free to love unconditionally in any aspect. And I think this kind of change in the way that we are moving, this freedom, it's not about a freedom of going out there and having your heart broken. It's actually moving in the complete different
Yeah.
direction, right?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to relationships, I mean, let's talk about that. I think relationships to flourish in this new paradigm, in this new earth, we have to really know thyself first. And that's the Oracle of Delphi, of course. But to know thyself and to love thyself and to really be at peace with oneself. Because only from that perspective can the true frequency match of the partner, the lover, come in and be co-creative. You see, in the olden days, we were all of us, to a greater or lesser extent, codependent on one another. That's how the Matrix 3D works. It is what it is. There's no blame here. And we're beginning to realize that in a way, the marriage of tomorrow is really the marriage with thyself, with one's higher self, I should say, the marriage with one's higher self. And once we're on the path to that, and of course it's never fully eventuated on our planet. We live in the 3D. This is, a biological, messy, heavy, earthy world, and that's part of the experience that we come to have. This is planet Earth. It's not planet air or fire or water even. But at the same time, if we can know thyself and we can know thyself better when we're with nature, when we're eating clean food, organic food, rather than fake food, and when the water does not have fluoride and arsenic and lead and chlorine in it, it makes a big difference. And of course, this is mass poisoning. I mean, today's conversation isn't about explaining what the agenda of transhumanism and depopulation is about. I mean, it is what it is, but the more human beings can realize that and as a result start to make better decisions and hopefully soon boot out these darker entities that have been governing our realm, so much the better. But this is we're stepping into a whole new way of being, and the more we understand thyself, the better then the right relationship match will come in for us. Because otherwise, it's not appropriate anymore for us to be going out with someone just for the sake of it, or to be married to someone for the sake of it. It's better really to be alone, to wait for the right person to come in. I think that's more applicable to the new earth.
Oh, 100%. I feel like my whole purpose in life, my initials Emma Louise Falconer. I don't think it's a mistake that I was given the elf to bring in the self, right? And I joke, I make jokes about it, but it's true. I think my whole blueprint is to bring some humor into some of these things. I'm very childlike, and because I love everything and I see the light in everything. And that has been a big critique for people that I've received through my life. You can't love everything, surely. I'm like, well, I just do. And I've questioned myself. And I think
Yeah.
we're questioning ourselves. And now it's like, actually, I'm going to stop questioning myself. I'm actually going to really trust how I feel and really focus on what it means to be Emma, right? To be myself. And that doesn't mean that I'm cutting myself off. Actually, I'm becoming more connected because the more connected I connect to me, I've noticed the more connected than I am to everything else around me, and especially nature, right? When I was listening to a really great talk with, from Dr. Zach Bush in the States, right? Around the fact that we we're so segregated from nature.
Yeah.
We are nature. We're actually little mini oceans, if you like, walking around. We're actually water,
Yeah.
100% water. And we've been, because we've been so carbonized.
Yeah.
And I love the science nerdy stuff of all of this, even if I don't fully understand it. We've been so carbonized that our bodies can't be fluid. We
Yeah.
can't pass the things that we need, and then that's when we get disease in our bodies,
I
you
mean,
know?
one of the things, I mean, I love Zach Bush. I've followed him for years. I mean, I think, we're moving in that sense from a carbon structure to a crystalline structure. And that's part of understanding the reactivation of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and understanding the heart chakra's not just, the heart's not just a muscle that pumps blood. It is actually a mini nuclear bomb in the sense of it carries a powerful auric energy of expansion and contraction, and the more we raise it, the expansion is greater, and it lifts our spirits, and as a result, our physicality is greatly supported, and that's that Jupiter concept of expansion through the connection between mind, body, spirit, the connection between the etheric and the esoteric and the exoteric, between the the physical and the metaphysical. I mean, I do think, though, I will say this, is there is no coming to consciousness on our planet without pain. And what we've had to go through since the beginning of the pandemic is actually, we will look back at it. Unfortunately, not it's mixed because obviously we've seen loved ones die or suffer, families split apart. It's been very, very painful for all of us. I certainly can speak to that personally.
Yeah.
But but people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing pain and avoid facing their own soul because the cultural programming has been so materialistic. So one doesn't really become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, I think is what Carl Jung said. You know, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. We do have to go through the darkness. It's a bit like the um, understanding the allegory of the cave by Plato, or the hero's journey, which George Lucas puts into popular form in Star Wars. We have to go through the darkness and to witness it, and as a result, to see it, and then we can heal through it. We heal that journey, that pain, in order to ascend to higher realms. And that's what we're doing as a planetary species. Whether we're doing it individually or collectively, we're doing it together right now.
100%. This has been the most painful year of my life.
Mm.
This has been, and avoidance is the thing. I've seen it where when you avoid the pain and you drop back into matrix, you're running away from your own soul because it's easier to avoid the pain. But I really believe the people that are waking up right now are brave souls, are maybe the ones that are the ones that are stronger to feel the pain, to be the way showers, if you like, to trying to create the transformation. Because like you say, my vibration and your vibration, you're ahead of me, you know, in terms of your ascension, you know, as we all vibrate, the collective vibration goes up, and then it helps for the next wave. Because if we all were doing
Yeah.
it at the same time, it would be really painful for the whole planet, right? It could drop us into chaos. And I think this is
Yeah.
quite important to know.
I don't know, really about this level of who's ahead or not, because I think people have different areas of knowledge. And I think this is very Aquarian, what I'm trying to express, is I have a lot of air in my chart, meaning I'm very good with words. It's funny,
Yeah.
as I speak to you today, it was only 4 or 5 degrees this morning, which is very cold for northern Florida. And I'm in a porch here, and it's lovely, but I'm very quite cold as I speak
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's definitely affecting me. My brain is still loose, is still sharp, but it's like I need to have a hot bath after this, or get into the sun. But it's like everyone has different skill sets, and so someone who's going to be very good with words is going to come across as very knowledgeable because that person is sharing through language something very profound. And people think, oh my gosh, wow, because we're so used to putting people on pedestals. Other people have no ability to to language, and yet they have such an inner wisdom. Like the lady I'm staying with here, she's not a language person, but she's more connected to the plants, to nature, to the sacredness of the medicines within it than almost anyone I know. And so I think the new age is about recognition that people get to their source in different ways, as opposed to the old pedestal of that person has the knowledge. And we kind of, because we've all been programmed, especially in Britain, to bow down and to king or queen and say, oh my gosh, that person knows a lot. I'm now going to give my sovereignty away because he or she knows more. No, you do you, I do me, meaning I'll take a little bit of what that person wants, but really, at the end of the day, if it's not aligned with my core frequency, I have to do it differently. As long as we're not doing satanic ritual and nasty stuff to people, really, the new earth is about total freedom of exploration of what you want to do. And that's really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because, like I say, I work in weird code, feeling, intuitive. I
Yeah.
just know things, and I'm like, I just don't know why. I just stop questioning. I just know, and it's strange. Like I actually struggle sometimes to put it into words because I'm like, what is even the word for this? Sometimes there is no word. And the thing that I was trying to kind of get across was the pain that we were going through. You know, the waves and trying to get through the pain so that when we ascend, hopefully we're sharing that kind of lesson in the pain from that, like more of us to kind of step into that. heart place and be fearless and start being brave and start facing those darknesses in order to shed and get rid of those negative emotions, those things that are quite, those things that are within us that we are ready to release and heal from as well. And I believe that that's why we're stepping more into being healers. I'm an ex-chartered financial planner, stock market trader, now an energy healer. What the? How did that happen this year? This only happened within the last 12 weeks. Did I create a business that allowed me to be a wealth energy healer, right? And it's like, I would have never dreamt that up 12 months ago. I would have
Mm,
thought, again, you
mm,
were talking like off the scale kind of craziness, and this is what we need to open up our mind to, that anything is possible, that we do create our own reality. We can step into places and be fearless. We just need to be open to not avoiding the pain and saying that actually it is going to be painful, but beyond that pain is heaven on earth in a humanly experience. We're not here to leave this earth. We are actually here to have a
yeah,
really beautiful human experience, right? Oh,
100%. Yeah, it is about making it right. Yeah, yeah.
and one thing before we close off, because I know that we want to wrap things up within the 45 minutes, is that a big thing that I have been drawn to is sauna. Because like you, I feel when I get cold, I cannot even function. And I've intuitively been going to sauna because the sauna and the Finnish do all of their diplomatic
Mm,
trades in sauna, because when we're in sauna, again, we drop out of mind and ego into heart, and we have these sauna chats as well. And I found it profound to be around this sort of energy, because for me, it's everything is energy and connection and the heat as well that I experience. So maybe, having that hot bath or that sauna is really important for us to step into that higher consciousness so we can start to communicate in that higher dimension, right?
I mean, I'm big into hot and cold. I do ice baths from time to time. I mean, I do these retreats. I take people up to the Arctic Circle with a great Norwegian friend of mine every year. And which swim in these frigid lakes. And then we go into the sauna, which is next to the lake. And we do this 2 or 3 times. And it's very efficacious for the mind, body, spirit. It really is.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving up your time and sharing so much magic
My
and
pleasure.
insight into your world. And, really, I think it's just the start of people here, in the UK, hearing some of the things that I really believe we need to be open to hearing. Whether people listen to it and think this is not even real, it's starting to
Mm,
spread the kind of
good.
message that needs to be heard. Is there anything that you just want to say before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just, and I speak for myself because I'm the poster child of the brainwash. I went to one of the most elite schools in England. So at the end of the day, I have great compassion for people in Britain who are going to naturally react egotistically to some of this stuff. It's not that it's particularly woo-woo, actually, what we've talked about.
No.
But the accusation, it's so easy to do because it's not linear. It's so easy, oh, this, what does really, really mean? And until they've actually experienced it, it is still a little abstract. All I'd ask is for everyone who may hear this just to soften their heart a little bit towards the potentiality of them moving to higher realms of consciousness and them doing it in their own way. And that softening of the heart is something which is very much towards the fourth and up to the fifth dimension, which is the Christed light, which is what we're seeing, especially in the United States, a great resurgence in understanding the story of Christ.
Yeah. I was in church just yesterday with my little boy, St. James's Church in Swimbridge, and whilst I'm not religious, I've never been religious. I have this
Mm.
deep connection to something that I can't explain, and it's coming from somewhere. It's energy, and it's just the source of all creation, where it all started. So thank you so much for coming on the Wealth Rebel show.
Pleasure.
You
Absolute
are
pleasure.
amazing. Namaste.
Okay. God bless. Bye bye.